The middle stage of the Xuanji realm, Zhang Ruokan's Qi lake capacity expanded tenfold, allowing him to store more true Qi. The true Qi that had been consumed in the body quickly recovered, and it became more vigorous, flowing rapidly in the 36 meridians, and after a while, a great Zhou Tian was completed. Wow! Zhang Ruokan released the martial soul and used the martial soul to display the space domain. At the beginning of the Zhanji realm, the space realm could only envelop a space within a radius of 10 meters. Reaching the middle stage of the Xuanji realm, the size of the space realm reached a radius of 30 meters. Zhang Ruokan's control of the space field has become more. A phantom poison bee flew into the space domain and attacked towards Zhang Ruokan. Zhang Ruokan just thought about it, and immediately formed a space distortion force, changing the flight trajectory of the phantom poison bee. With Zhang Ruokan's current control of the space realm, even if he stood still and 10 phantom bees attacked him at the same time, he would not be able to help him. Wow! Zhang Ruokan swung his sword and slashed, and the phantom poisonous bee was broken in two and fell to the ground. Qingyu stood not far away, showing a contemptuous smile, and said, even if the realm breaks through, it can't change the ending at all. Really? Zhang Ruokan said. Blood like a rainbow. Zhang Ruokan's body was surrounded by a faint layer of blood rainbow, and on top of the stimulation of the blood rainbow, he rushed out, bursting out at a speed of 38 meters per second, and attacked towards Qingyu. With Zhang Ruokan's current speed, he has surpassed the vast majority of Xuanji realm's small pole martial artists. Elephants galloped to the ground. The true Qi in Zhang Ruokan's body all surged to his arm, and his palm was completely wrapped in true Qi, and even the air flow in the space surged with the palm print. Blue Devil Hand. Qingyu is fearless. Even if Zhang Ruokan reaches the middle stage of the Xuanji realm, it is still a dead end when he meets him. Bang! Quote. Two powerful forces collided together with a loud bang. A strong wind surged out around the two of them, shaking the surrounding trees and dropping leaves one by one. Poof! Quote. Qingyu spat out a mouthful of blood, and felt a powerful force that spread to his arm, shaking his internal organs and trembling. Zhang Ruokan's palm pressed on Qingyu's palm, and the force became stronger and stronger, pressing Qingyu into sliding backwards. Bang! Quote. Qingyu retreated more than 10 meters away, his body hit the trunk of a big tree, and a mouthful of blood spat out of his mouth again. Your strength is even stronger than mine. You're going to die today. Quote. Qingyu's face became fierce and distorted, and he roared, Blood Qi Condensation Beast. Quote. The blood in Qingyu's body seemed to be burning, and a large blood mist appeared behind him, and in the blood mist, it condensed into a huge wolf shadow 2 meters high. The symbol of the small pole position of the Xuanji realm is the Blood Qi Condensation Beast. The blood is boiling, the blood is like a rainbow, the blood is soaring, and the blood is condensing the beast. For martial artists in the Xuanji realm, every time they ascend to a realm, the blood and qi in their bodies will increase by a large margin, and different degrees of supernatural changes will occur. For example, a martial artist in the early stage of the Xuanji realm, if he bursts out with the power of blood qi and reaches blood qi boiling, he can increase his combat power by 1%. A martial artist in the middle of the Xuanji realm, the power of blood qi bursts out, and when it reaches blood qi like a rainbow, it can increase the combat power by 30%. Martial artists in the late stage of the Xuanji realm, the power of blood qi bursts out, reaching blood qi soaring to the sky, which can increase the combat power by 50%. When reaching the small pole of the Xuanji realm, the blood and qi in the martial artist's body can be condensed into a beast shadow, and the power becomes more violent. Once the power of blood qi erupts, the combat power of a martial artist can be doubled in a short period of time. Therefore, even if the martial artists in the late stage of the Xuanji realm are talented, it is difficult for them to defeat the martial artists of the small pole position of the Xuanji realm. It is said that when reaching the level of the great perfection of the Xuanji realm and transforming into a god, the power of blood qi can explode and the combat power of a martial artist can be increased by 2 times in a short period of time. At this moment, Qingyu's strength doubled, and the bloodlines in his whole body were highlighted, and he slapped out with one palm, shocking Zhang Ruokan to 7 zhang away. Wow! Qingyu didn't give Zhang Ruokan a chance to breathe at all, and took out the sharp sickle again. His speed was faster than before, and in an instant, he rushed in front of Zhang Ruokan. The inscription in the scythe was activated, emitting a dazzling blood light, and with a sharp knife aura, it swung towards Zhang Ruokan's neck. Space warp. The space distorted again, and the scythe swung over Zhang Ruokan's head. This time, Qingyu finally sensed that something was wrong, and his face changed, and he said, How is it possible? What postures did you use? No, it's not that you escaped the life-reeling scythe, it's that the space is distorted. You finally found out. Unfortunately, it's over. Zhang Ruokan stabbed out with a backhand sword, and the tip of the sword passed through Qingyu's throat, piercing Qingyu's body. Qingyu's eyes widened, very unwilling, his whole body trembled violently, and blood kept gushing out of his mouth. With a bang, he fell to the ground. The Qing family, the most outstanding genius in 100 years, just fell. If it weren't for Zhang Ruokan, with his talent, in another 20 years, he would definitely reach the heavenly extreme realm and become a martial arts myth. Fortunately, Zhang Ruokan broke through to the middle stage of the Xuanji realm, otherwise, breathed a long sigh of relief, a feeling of weakness came, his eyes were slightly dark, and he almost fainted. Still too badly wounded, and bleeding too much. Zhang Ruokan was half kneeling on the ground, supporting the ground with his palms, trying to keep himself awake. Swallowing a healing Saint Nidin, Zhang Ruokan sat on the ground, operating the true qi in his body and refining the Saint Nidin's Dan qi in a quarter of an hour. Zhang Ruokan's injuries had recovered by 2%, but he was still very weak. At this time, it will be quite dangerous to encounter other warriors or brute beasts. Suddenly, above my head, there was a sound of breaking wind. A huge black shadow, swooping from mid-air, came down and fell in front of Zhang Ruokan. When I looked closely, it turned out to be a huge black cat the size of a lion, with a pair of black wings on its back. Meow. Xiaohe let out a cat meow, and his body gradually shrunk to the size of a normal cat, and a human voice came out of his mouth, "I'm tired. Exhausted. That guy's cultivation is very unusual, he is actually a beast master, and he has summoned a large group of ghoul crows, otherwise, the emperor will definitely kill him." Zhang Ruokan was also slightly relieved when he saw that it was Xiaohe, and said, "Prince Huoxing escaped." "That's right," Xiaohe said, "fighting with him almost exhausted the little true qi in my body. Young man, give me a spirit crystal, I want to restore my true qi." Zhang Ruokan took out a spirit crystal, threw it to Xiaohe, and said curiously, "Why has your cultivation increased so much? You must know that when Zhang Ruokan was at the extreme position in the yellow extreme realm, Xiaohe's combat power was only at the extreme position in the yellow extreme realm, and he was slightly weaker than Zhang Ruokan. However, the combat power that Xiaohe showed just now could compete with the martial artists of the Xuanji realm, and he actually beat Prince Huoxing to escape." Xiaohe said, "I told you a long time ago that all the power of this seat is sealed in the Chenkin Divine Wood diagram, and only you can open the seal. The stronger your cultivation, the more seals you can open, and the stronger my strength will naturally be." Zhang Ruokan said, "What if your seal is completely unlocked?" Xiaohe raised his huge head and said, "That is when this emperor returns to the world, he will slaughter the heavens and kill the earth, and I will be the only one. You just need to follow me and be my slave, and the emperor promises to let you walk sideways in the Kunlun realm." Then, Xiaohe sighed again and said, "It's a pity that the old bald donkey of the Sumeru monk has already planned, and with your cultivation, it is impossible to break all the seals. Not to mention, the emperor first went to the inner space of the space-time spar to restore his true qi. Young man, give me a spirit crystal." Zhang Ruokan said, "There are a large number of spirit crystals stored in the inner space of the space-time crystal, you can take them yourself. How long will it take for you to regain your true qi?" "With the help of spirit crystals, it only takes half a day to recover." Little underworld. Zhang Ruokan put Xiaohe into the inner space of the space-time crystal, then stood up and went to clean up the battlefield. He could also see that it was impossible for Xiaohe to escape from the seal of the Chenkin Divine Wood diagram. Moreover, it would never dare to be unfavorable to Zhang Ruokan. Once Zhang Ruokan died, it would be sealed in the Dao Chenkin Divine Wood diagram again. Qingyu died, and the other 7 warriors of the Sifang county also died, and only Prince Huoxing fled. Zhang Ruokan found 18 beast eyes on Qingyu's body, which was equivalent to hunting 9 second-order inferior brute beasts. Qingyu's body also has a 2-star noble card, as well as 38 spirit crystals and 300 silver coins. Zhang Ruokan didn't have much hope for that 2-star noble card. If he couldn't find the blood of Qingyu's immediate family, even if there were a large number of silver coins stored on the noble card, he wouldn't be able to take it out. Zhang Ruokan picked up the life-seeking scythe in Qingyu's hand, injected his true qi into the life-seeking sickle, and found that there were actually 23 inscriptions in the life-seeking sickle, which was a fifth-order true martial weapon, which could be sold for at least 100,000 silver coins. A good thing, worth a fortune, and once sold, it is a fortune. Subsequently, Zhang Ruokan went to collect the beast eyes, weapons, spirit crystals, and silver coins on the other 7 young martial artists into the inner space of the space-time crystal. Now is not the time to count the treasures. Prince Huoxing may come back at any time. With Zhang Ruokan's current state of being seriously injured, he is definitely not his opponent. You must leave here immediately, find a safe place, and take a slow inventory of your gains. Zhang Ruokan suddenly thought of Ziqian, so he immediately entered the dense forest where he first went to fight Qingyu, looking for Ziqian's traces. Yes. It didn't take long for Zhang Ruokan to hear a woman's rapid gasp in his ears, and it seemed to let out a seductive moan. Zhang Ruokan separated the dense grass, and saw Ziqian lying on the ground, with a pair of jade hands on her chest, trembling all over, and after seeing Zhang Ruokan, her pretty face showed a trace of redness, and said in a trembling voice, I'm poisoned. Save. It's not like I'm crying for help, the seductive voice is more like moaning. Her state was very wrong, her eyes were blurred, her eyelashes fluttered slightly, her red lips opened slightly, and her snow-white skin was covered with a layer of pink, escaping grains of fragrant sweat. Poisoned. What kind of poison? Zhang Ruokan saw that Ziqian's right shoulder had a blue-black palm print, which was injured by Qingyu's Blue Devil hand. The poison of the Blue Devil's hand. No, it seems that it's not just the poison of the Blue Devil's hand. Zhang Ruokan found a blood mark in Ziqian's lower abdomen, which was stabbed by the tail thorn of the phantom poisonous bee. Ziqian's body has a total of 3 puncture marks, which are on the neck, lower abdomen, and the base of the left thigh. Her slender beauty legs were trembling slightly, stirring each other, rubbing so hard that even the hakama seemed to be broken. I don't know if it was because of pain, or because of something else. Poisoned by the phantom bee, Akane has a strong hallucination. At the same time, the poison of the Blue Devil's hand is also very peculiar, making her become confused, and the beautiful jade hand is even grabbing the clothes on her body, tearing out holes one after another, revealing snow-white skin. Qingyu's cultivation is an evil skill, specializing in absorbing the true qi in a woman's body, so as to strengthen herself. In order to capture female warriors more conveniently, the Blue Devil hand must have the toxicity to make women lose themselves in lust desire. This is a little tricky, didn't know what to do, so he could only give a Saint Pinch pill. Then, Zhang Ruokan grabbed Ziqian's jade arm and carried her on her back, intending to leave here first. Although Ziqian is a killer, and it is likely that she is here to kill him, Zhang Ruokan can completely let her go and leave her to fend for herself. However, after all, they fought side by side before. If it wasn't for Ziqian's action to kill those 7 martial artists, Zhang Ruokan's strength alone might not be able to break out of the encirclement. Save me. Ziqian's whole body was soft, as if she was drunk, her beautiful cheeks rubbed against Zhang Ruokan's face, and the breathing in her mouth became more rapid. Her soft jade hands couldn't help but reach into Zhang Ruokan's clothes and knead Zhang Ruokan's chest. Zhang Ruokan carried Ziqian on his back and ran quickly in the dense forest, wanting to escape from the place where he had just fought as soon as possible. Ziqian, who was carried on his back, kept groping on him, and a soft red lip kissed on his face, kissing Zhang Ruokan's neck red, leaving a strawberry-like mark. It's endless. Zhang Ruokan tilted his head vigorously and knocked Ziqian's face away slightly. At this moment, Ziqian's consciousness was confused, and she had a strong hallucination, which only intensified. Stab. Sound. She tore the clothes on her body, revealing a large area of snow-white skin, leaving only a close-fitting moon-white coat, and a pair of plump peaks pressed on Zhang Ruokan's back. Her wheezing voice became more rapid, her delicate body was very hot, rubbing vigorously on Zhang Ruokan's back, and kissing Zhang Ruokan's face again, leaving patches of wet kiss marks. Gah! Suddenly, above my head, there was the cry of a blue-scaled eagle. Zhang Ruokan's face changed, and he immediately stopped, lay down in a pit on the ground, and covered his body with weeds and leaves. Zhang Ruokan held his breath and looked towards the sky. Prince Huo Xing stood on the back of the blue-scaled eagle, hovering in the sky, looking around. In addition to Prince Huo Xing, there was another man in white riding a two-headed vulture, who also flew in the sky. Their eyes are all staring down. What are they looking for? Save me. Bah, let's. Ziqian's eyes were blurred, her mouth was panting, and she hugged Zhang Ruokan tightly, and her jade hand reached into Zhang Ruokan's robe again. Don't move. Zhang Ruokan pressed Ziqian under him, covered her lips tightly with one hand, and restrained one of her arms with the other, for fear that she would make a mess and scream and alarm the two people in the sky. If someone passed by at this moment and saw this scene, they would definitely think that Zhang Ruokan wanted to plot against Ziqian. Prince Huo Xing stood on the back of the green scale eagle, but in the end he still didn't find any trace of Zhang Ruokan and Ziqian. His eyes became cold. Damn, they escaped. This time, the Quartet County suffered heavy losses, and even Feng Ziyi and Qingyu were killed by them. If they were not found and broken into thousands of pieces, it would be difficult to eliminate the hatred in the heart of this prince. Feng Zhilan stood on the back of the two-headed vulture, his eyes were also cold, and said, "The ninth prince of Yunwu County, right? He killed my brother, and I will make him pay a heavy price." Feng Zhilan, who is Feng Ziyi's elder brother, has cultivated to reach the Great Pole of the Xuanji realm, and has become a disciple of the Outer Palace of the Wuxi Academy Palace 2 years ago. Feng Zhilan was one of the inspectors of the first round of the academy exam, responsible for rescuing candidates who were in danger. Feng Zhilan said, "Now that they have fled, I should also leave. If other inspectors find out that I am staying with you, they will definitely stab the elders of the academy palace and accuse me of favoritism." Prince Huo Xing nodded and said, "Senior brother Feng, you go first. If they were lucky this time, they won't have that luck next time." Then, Prince Huo Xing and Feng Zhilan rode their mounts and flew away in two different directions. It turns out that he is Feng Ziyi's brother, and if you want to withdraw the silver coins in Feng Ziyi's 2-star noble card, you have to find him. Quote. Zhang Ruokan wrote down the appearance of Feng Zhilan. Suddenly, a huge force came from under her, and Ziqian broke free from Zhang Ruokan's suppression and pressed Zhang Ruokan back under her. Zhang Ruokan shook his head, pointed out, and hit Ziqian's eyebrows. Ziqian's aura lake shook violently, her eyes turned black, like a ball of spring mud, and fell softly on Zhang Ruokan's body. It's a terrible toxicity that makes an iceberg-like killer become so profligate. Fortunately, you met me, otherwise, you would have lost both money and money today. Quote. Zhang Ruokan swung Ziqian's body and carried her on her back again. It took half an hour. Zhang Ruokan ran for more than 100 miles, and finally found a relatively safe cave. Zhang Ruokan put Ziqian on the ground and found that Ziqian's lips had turned blue and purple, her face was pale, and if she didn't treat her in time, she would definitely die. Zhang Ruokan asked Ziqian to sit on the ground, and then walked behind her. He also sat cross-legged on the ground, operating the true qi in his body, and the second layer of the Nine Heavens Ming Emperor Sutra came to his mind. The second layer of the Nine Heavens Ming Emperor Sutra, Taming Jade Realm Heaven. Quote. With the non-stop operation of the true qi in Zhang Ruokan's body became more and more pure, turning jade white. Wow. Quote. Zhang Ruokan's palms shot out at the same time, hitting Ziqian's naked, exposed jade back. The jade, white true qi spit out from Zhang Ruokan's palm, passed through the Zongtian veins on Ziqian's back, and entered Ziqian's body. The first layer of the Nine Heavens Ming Emperor Sutra, the Emperor Huang Jingtian. The second layer, Taming Jade Realm Heaven. Every time he cultivates into a layer, Zhang Ruokan's true qi will undergo a qualitative change. Not only will the purity of his true qi far exceed that of martial artists of the same realm, but also form certain attributes. For example, in the second layer of the Nine Heavens Ming Emperor Sutra, what is cultivated is the jade pure true qi. LT can purify evil and poisonous gases. In other words, as long as Zhang Ruokan successfully cultivates the second layer of the Nine Heavens Ming Emperor Sutra, even if he can't be invulnerable, he will at least be immune to most of the toxins. The jade pure true qi ran in Ziqian's body for a great week, and then flowed back into Zhang Ruokan's palm and returned to Zhang Ruokan's qi lake. After 36 cycles, the toxins in Zixi's body were significantly reduced, her lips turned ruddy again, and a blush appeared on her face. Wow! A mouthful of blue, black poisonous blood spat out of his mouth. Zixi slowly woke up. Feeling the coolness coming from her body, she immediately looked towards her body, and found that her body was naked, completely exposed to the air. Zhang Ruokan's hands pressed on Ziqian's back and said, "Don't move, immediately follow me to run the true qi in your body, only in this way can you completely remove the toxins in your body." When Ziqian heard Zhang Ruokan's words, her heart couldn't be calm. Boom. A powerful force erupted from her body, shaking Zhang Ruokan upside down and flying out. She covered her chest with one hand to prevent the spring light from leaking out, and with the other hand, she pinched it into a sword trick, and her index finger and middle finger were together, stabbing at Zhang Ruokan, pointing at Zhang Ruokan's eyebrows, and said coldly, "What did you do to me?" Zhang Ruokan's heart was very speechless, and said, "Can you calm down? If I wanted to do anything to you, I would have done it a long time ago. Besides, it's not what I did to you, but what did you do to me? Look at my neck yourself, look at my clothes, and the scratches on my chest, all of them. If I hadn't stopped you in time." Shut up. Ziqian looked at the red mark on Zhang Ruokan's neck, a blush appeared on her face, she bit her lip tightly, and immediately took 2 steps back. Her body was still very weak, her pace was unsteady, and she fell directly to the ground, gasping for breath in her mouth. Zhang Ruokan stood up and sighed, "I told you not to move, but you still have to be so stubborn. The toxins in your body are not removed, and you may come back at any time. You don't care." Ziqian took out a small jade bottle from the spatial ring, poured out an antidote pill from it, and put it in her mouth. Suddenly, she saw Zhang Ruokan walking towards her and covering her body with a wide robe to cover her delicate body. Ziqian was slightly stunned, lowered her head slightly, her eyes showed a little hesitation, and finally asked, "Except for the marks on your neck, nothing else happened between us, right?" Zhang Ruokan smiled. "What else can I do besides this?" Ziqian's cheeks became even redder, and she bit her lip tightly, looking at the very handsome young man in front of her. She actually felt a sense of shame, and she wanted to flee this place immediately, lest he see her embarrassment. "That's right. One more thing." Zhang Ruokan took out a fish intestine sword in his sleeve, handed it to Ziqian, and said, "This is the sword found in your sleeve, and I will return it to you." Ziqian's face changed, staring at the fish intestine sword in Zhang Ruokan's hand, and said, You already know that I'm the killer of the underworld." Zhang Ruokan looked at the fish intestine sword in his hand, nodded, and said with a smile, "Except for the killer of the Defu Gate, who else will use this kind of sword?" Ziqian's beautiful eyes stared at Zhang Ruokan tightly, and said, "Since you know that I am the killer of the Defu Gate, you should know that I am here to kill you. Why do you save me? I can't just watch you die in the wilderness." Zhang Ruokan said again. "Besides, if you really killed me, you would have died a long time ago. How is it possible to stand here alive? If you can't kill me, and you don't kill me, why can't I save you?" Ziqian was very ashamed, her lips were biting blood, and she said, "Zhang Ruokan, did anyone tell you before that you were a bastard?" Regarding Ziqian's question, Zhang Ruokan's answer, of course, was no. Who would admit to being a jerk? The next day, Zhang Ruokan and Ziqian hid in the cave to recuperate. With the assistance of the healing elixir, by the time it was dark, Zhang Ruokan's injuries had recovered 70 or 80%. With his current time, even if he meets Prince Huo Xing, he is completely sure that he will suppress the other party. Zhang Ruokan and Ziqian died for life, they also gained the 18 beast eyes collected from Qing Yu's body, and the other 7 martial artists, a total of 26 beast eyes were collected, plus the 14 beast eyes that Zhang Ruokan originally had on his body. Zhang Ruokan now had a total of 58 beast eyes, which was equivalent to hunting 29 second-order inferior brute beasts. My current cultivation is in the middle stage of the Xuanji realm, and I only need to hunt 10 second-order inferior brute beasts to pass the level. In other words, I have now exceeded my mandate. Zhang Ruokan smiled slightly, stared at Ziqian, and said, "Purple girl, how many beast eyes do you have there?" Ziqian sat cross-legged on the ground, put away her true qi, and said, "There are 68 in total, which is equivalent to hunting 34 second-order inferior brute beasts." The Xuanji realm is a small pole, and it is necessary to hunt and kill 40 second-order inferior brute beasts. Out 12 beast eyes, handed them to Ziqian, and said. Ziqian was not polite, took the 12 beast eyes, and put them away. She said, "Are you really not afraid that I will kill you? Do you know how much your head costs on the black market?" Zhang Ruokan continued to count the spirit crystals, silver coins, and true martial arts treasures on the ground, and asked without looking back, "How much?" 150 spirit crystals, equivalent to 150,000 silver coins. Ziqian had a smile on her face and said, "You know that 150,000 silver coins can already ask the masters of the Earth Extreme Realm to kill you personally." Zhang Ruokan turned around, handed a burden to Ziqian, and said, 150 spirit crystals, for you, put it away." "What do you mean?" Qian was slightly stunned, took the burden in Zhang Ruokan's hand, and opened it to take a look. In the baggage, colorful colors were emanated, and a rich aura poured out from it, causing the concentration of aura in the air to rise sharply. It turned out to be 150 spirit crystals. Zhang Ruokan smiled faintly and said, "These are all treasures found from Qingyu and the 7 dead martial artists. The old rules, the spirit crystal belongs to you, and the true martial arts treasure and elixir belong to me." Ziqian bit her lower lip gently, stared at Zhang Ruokan deadly, and unceremoniously, put away all the 150 spirit crystals. Every young martial artist who can come to participate in the Martial City Academy examination is a martial arts genius, either from a certain big family or from a large sect. The cultivation resources and wealth on their bodies were naturally quite abundant, and the sum of 10 people was comparable to the family background of an Earth Extreme Realm master. Zhang Ruokan put away all the true martial weapons and dozens of Dan bottles, and asked, "Now, we have completed the task and can end the first round of exams early, so let's go back now." "No, we have only killed the 24 warriors of the Sifang County now, and we have not hurt the foundation of the Sifang County at all. Feng Ziyi and Qingyu have both died at our hands, and in the next 2 days, we can strike even more without scruples and kill the warriors of the quartet counties to the ground." Ziqian's eyes were cold, and she didn't plan to end the first round of exams right now. Zhang Ruokan touched his chin lightly and said, "Do you think that hunting the warriors of the quartet counties is more profitable than being a killer?" "So what?" Ziqian admitted unabashedly, and then said, "As the 9th prince of Yunwu County, don't you want to contribute to Yunwu County? If you and I both leave the Heavenly Demon Mountains, how can the other young warriors of the Yunwu County Kingdom resist the killing of the warriors of the Sifang County Kingdom?" Zhang Ruokan said, "When you say that, I really can't stand by and watch." Ziqian's face showed a beautiful smile, long eyelashes, fluttering slightly, and said softly, "That's nature. In the middle of the battle, the cultivation talent can be improved the fastest. Moreover, the more cultivation resources we plunder, the faster our cultivation speed will be after entering the Martial City Academy. In order for Yunwu Zhengguo to have a few fewer deaths, then I will accompany you crazy once." Zhang Ruokan said. The night was dark. Zhang Ruokan and Ziqian turned into 2 afterimages and rushed into the Heavenly Demon Ridge. Zhang Ruokan's current speed has reached 38 meters per second, which is comparable to Ziqian's speed, and it is equal to that of Ziqian. All night, bloody rain. 35 warriors from the 4 directions counties died under Ziqian's sword. The 2 of them also obtained a large number of cultivation resources, not only beast eyes, spirit crystals, and silver coins, but also dozens of true martial arts weapons, a large number of pills, and more than 10 caddies of spirit meat. During the day, they hid in caves to rest and regain their true qi. Zhang Ruokan refined 7-3 halal qi pills in a row, and finally consolidated the cultivation in the middle of the Xuanji realm. The injuries on his body healed, and his spirit became fuller. Before you know it, dusk has come again. It was getting dark, and soon it was dark again. It's the last night of the first round of exams. This night, screams rang out one after another in the heavenly demon ridge, and even some candidates crushed the unicorn ball and raised unicorn smoke. But, of course, when the inspectors arrived, the candidate was already dead, and the murderer had fled without a trace. It's weird. This year's academy exam was so tragic that at least 20 young martial artists from the Quartet County had died. The inspector with a spear in his hand said. Another inspector stood next to the corpse with his hands folded and said, I'm afraid it's far more than 20. Anyway, the Quartet County has suffered heavy losses this time, and I don't know who it provoked. Let's go. Anyway, it's the last night, and the exam will be over tomorrow at noon. The two rangers rode into two giant shadows and flew away from the area. This killing lasted until noon the next day, and the number of warriors who died in Ziqian's hands reached 49. Facing Ziqian, who was in the small pole position of the Xuanji realm, those martial artists in the early stage of the Xuanji realm and the middle stage of the Xuanji realm had no power to fight back at all, and they were all killed in one move. Zhang Ruokan followed behind, and he didn't have to do anything. Because, cleaning the battlefield and looting treasures, someone has already done it, and the man was still enjoying it. Not a person, to be exact, but a cat. Haha. 2 catties of spiritual flesh, earned. Xiao He searched out a jade box from a martial artist in the middle of the Zan extreme realm, opened the jade box, and a rich fragrance emanated. In the jade box, it is the spirit flesh. 21 crystals, 300 silver coins. This warrior is too poor. Xiao He shook his head, threw the burden containing the spirit crystal and silver coins to Zhang Ruokan, and then chased after Ziqian. Ziqian continued to hunt down the warriors of the Quartet counties, and Xiao He continued to search for treasures. One person and one cat, the cooperation is quite tacit. Zhang Ruokan followed unhurriedly, looked up at the sun in the sky, and said, it's almost noon, we should go back. If we don't go back, it'll be too late. What are you going back for? The emperor also wants to kill 2 people and give it a try. Xiao He showed his sharp teeth and claws, and looked very fierce. Zhang Ruokan glanced at him coldly and said, believe it or not, I'll seal you back now. Just kidding, why are you serious? Xiao He immediately reverted back to his very docile appearance, and put away his teeth and claws. When she first saw Xiao He, Ziqian was also very curious. Now, she was no longer surprised, just glanced at Xiao He lightly, and then withdrew her gaze. As long as the brute beasts are taught to learn the human language from an early age, some brute beasts with high intelligence can indeed speak human words. Of course, brute beasts that can speak human language are still very rare. Those treasures will be placed with you first, and after entering the Martial City Academy, we will slowly distribute them. Ziqian used a piece of silk cloth to wipe the blood from the sword and withdraw the scabbard. Zhang Ruokan could clearly feel that after 3 days of killing, Ziqian's sword realm had improved by a few points, and it was not far from the high-level realm where the sword could go at will. According to her cultivation speed, before the Earth Extreme realm, she would be able to reach the high level of the sword walking with her heart. What she should be cultivating is the killing sword Dao. Zhang Ruokan's heart secretly said. Meow. Xiao He's body became smaller, only the size of a fist, jumped on the ground, jumped into Zhang Ruokan's hand, and was put in Zhang Ruokan's pocket. Zhang Ruokan and Ziqian left the heavenly demon ridge and rushed towards the outside of the mountain range. It didn't take long for the two of them to walk out of the mountains and meet an Outer Palace student from the Wuxi Academy. The Outer Palace student of the Wuxi School Palace took Zhang Ruokan and Ziqian, sat on the back of the two-headed snow vulture, and flew in the direction of the Wuxi School Palace. Named Wang Qi, cultivated to reach the Great Pole of the Xuanji. Wang Qi looked at Zhang Ruokan and Ziqian, and when he saw Ziqian, his eyes lit up slightly. Ziqian is indeed very beautiful, and she has an excellent temperament, and she is definitely an iceberg beauty. A beauty like Ziqian, even compared to the three beauties of the West Courtyard, is not much worse. Wang Qi leaned towards Ziqian's side and said, I entered the Martial City Academy Palace 3 years ago to cultivate, and I ranked the 2038th among the outer palace students in the Western Courtyard. Which of the warriors of the County King are you two? Ziqian's eyes were cold, and she just stood on the back of the two-headed vulture with her sword in her arms, ignoring Wang Qi. She has seen too many men like Wang Qi who took the initiative to talk to her. Zhang Ruokan smiled and said, King Yunwu County. Yunwu Zhengguo. Wang Qi shook his head gently, his eyes were still staring at Ziqian, and sighed, the martial artists of the Yunwu County Kingdom are in a very bad situation in the Martial City School Palace, and they have been suppressed by the Quartet County Kingdom. In particular, new students, if they are not protected by strong people, are often bullied. In previous years, there was also a mysterious disappearance of the new students of Yunwu County, and it is said that he was secretly killed by the students of the Sifang County. Senior sister, if you encounter trouble in the future, you only need to report my name Wang Qi, and in the West Courtyard, those people will still give me a face. Thank you senior brother Wang Qi for your concern, we will definitely be careful. Zhang Ruokan said with a smile. While speaking, they had already flown over the West Courtyard of the Wuxi School Palace. When Zhang Ruokan and Ziqian returned to the martial arts field of the West Courtyard, there were already 300 or 400 young martial artists gathered in the martial arts field. Among them, many of them had injuries on their bodies and looked lost on their faces. There are also some people who seem to be in high spirits, talking and laughing, obviously completing the task of the first round of the school palace exam, so they will be full of confidence. In the martial arts field, everyone was talking, most of them were discussing the thrilling experience of hunting brute beasts, and they were talking vividly. It is said that in this year's academy exam, 2 killing stars appeared, causing a bloody storm in the heavenly demon ridge, and many young martial artists died in their hands. I've heard that, too. Those 2 killers specialize in hunting and killing the warriors of the Four Directions counties, causing at least 50 casualties to the warriors of the Four Directions counties. A martial artist from the Yunwu County Kingdom side. Fortunately, those 2 killing stars frightened the warriors of the Sifang Zhengguo, and the martial artists of the Sifang Zhengguo did not have the energy to deal with our martial artists of the Yunwu Zhengguo, otherwise, I estimate that it would be difficult for me to pass the first round of the academy exam. Zhang Ruokan smiled faintly, walked past those young martial artists, and handed over the 20 beast eyes to the students who were responsible for counting the number of beast eyes. Ziqian also handed over 80 beast eyes. Both of them passed the first round of exams in the Martial City Academy, returned to the martial arts field, and gathered with other martial artists from the Yunwu County Kingdom. As for the extra beast eyes, both of them remained. The eyeballs of brute beasts, all of which have medicinal value, can be used for alchemy, and as long as they are sold, they can be sold for a lot of money. Already noon, and the time for the first round of school exams. On the high platform in the martial arts field of the West Courtyard, Elder Situ held a roster of animal skins and began to read out the list of those who had passed the first round of the Academy Palace examination this time. In the first round of the school examination, a total of 1,537 people participated, and 468 passed. The people who passed the first round of exams are Zhang Ying, Lu Chengfeng, and Xia Hao. After Elder Situ finished reading, the young martial artists who passed the first round of exams stayed in the martial arts field of the West Courtyard, while the other young martial artists were sent back to the various counties. Elder Situ continued, all martial artists who have passed the first round of exams will stay in the Western Courtyard Martial Arts Arena tonight to rest. Early tomorrow morning, I will participate in the second round of the exam, Wuda Breakthrough, and among the Wuda, the 120 people with the best performance will pass the exam. The rest, all eliminated. Tonight, your 2 senior sisters will guard the order here, and anyone who dares to make trouble before the martial pagoda break will be severely punished. After saying this, Elder Situ stepped down from the high platform and left the West Courtyard martial field. After Elder Situ left, 2 beautiful women, one tall and one short, walked out of the ancient buildings and walked into the martial arts field of the West Courtyard. Those outer palace students of the Wuxi Academy Palace, when they saw these two women, showed a little frightened look on their faces, and immediately bowed and saluted. I've seen Senior Sister Huang, Senior Sister Duanmu. I've seen Senior Sister Huang, Senior Sister Duanmu. Including Wang Qi, a student from the Outer Palace who had previously sent Zhang Ruokan and Ziqian back to the Wuxi School Palace, also saluted the two women respectfully. The woman surnamed Huang was very tall, with waist-length royal blue hair, and her skin was very fair, as delicate as the petals of a pear blossom. The woman surnamed Duanmu looked to be only 13 or 14 years old, with very delicate facial features, long eyelashes, and bright eyes. Although he doesn't look very old, his body development is very proud, and the twin peaks on his chest are more upright than the woman surnamed Huang. The most important thing is that both women are very beautiful and have the looks of the country. The two women climbed the 7 Zhonghai stone platform, glanced at the 468 young martial artists in the martial field, and then sat cross-legged on the stone platform, closed their eyes, as if they had cultivated. In the martial arts field of the West Courtyard, everyone's eyes were attracted by the two women, and they couldn't take their eyes off at all. Those outer palace students who had been in the Wuxi Academy Palace for a year or two didn't dare to look at the two women at all, with a taboo look on their faces. Zhang Ruokan also glanced at the two women, was slightly surprised, and said, "They are actually wearing brocade robes." Quote. Generally speaking, the outer palace disciples of the Wuxi Academy Palace can only wear white robes. Only the disciples of the inner palace can wear brocade robes. Lu Chengfeng stared at the two women on the stone platform and said in a low voice, "As long as you become a Xuanbang martial artist, or accumulate enough merit points, even if you are a disciple of the outer palace, you can wear a brocade robe." Quote. Usually, when Lu Chengfeng saw the beautiful woman, his eyes had already lit up, and he couldn't wait to pounce on it immediately. However, when he saw the two women on the stone platform, he rarely did not have a trace of gentlemanly appearance, but showed a little frightened look. Zhang Ruokan was a little curious, and said, "Are they Xuanbang martial artists?" Quote. Lu Chengfeng nodded hurriedly and said, "The west courtyard of the Wuxi Academy Palace has always been yin and yang. Female students are very powerful, and it is difficult for male students to have a say in the west courtyard. In the interior of the Wuxi School Palace, all of them call them the Niangyang of the West Palace, who dominates everything in the West Courtyard. If the male student offends them, then he will die. Hey. Quote. Zhang Ruokan's face showed a somewhat solemn look. If those two women were really Xuanbang martial artists, then their strength was really terrifying. Enter the Zan list. It is much more difficult than entering Yellow list is just a ranking of the top Yellow Extreme Realm martial artists in just one county. First of all, the realm of the Yellow Extreme Realm martial artist is still very low. Secondly, the geographical scope involved in the Yellow list is also very narrow. However, Zan Bang is different. Only the top Zanji realm martial artists can enter the list. Moreover, the scope of the ranking of Zan Bang has also increased to the 36 counties around the Heavenly Demon Ridge. In other words, only the top batch of Xuanji realm martial artists in the 36 counties can enter the Xuanbang. It can be said that every martial artist who can enter the Zan Bang has the strength to compete with the martial artists of the Earth Extreme Realm. Those who are ranked high in the Zan Bang are even more powerful than ordinary Earth Extreme Realm martial artists. If the two stunning women sitting on the stone platform were really Xuanbang martial artists, then wouldn't their strength be the top masters who could compete with the Earth Extreme Realm? No wonder those outer palace students were all afraid of them. Zhang Ruokan retracted his gaze, no longer stared at the two women, looked around, and found that there were a total of 31 young martial artists in Yunwu County this year, who had passed the first round of exams. Such achievements are certainly unimaginable in previous years. A total of 162 people in the Sifang County have passed the first round of exams, and it is still the county with the largest number of people among the 9 counties in Lingxi. Of course, compared to previous years, it is much worse. You know, it's just Zhang Ruokan and Zi who died. The number of warriors in Akane's hands has reached 98, and many of them are masters, which really hurts the vitality of the warriors of the Quartet County. Prince Huoxing sat cross-legged among the warriors of the Quartet County, staring coldly at Zhang Ruokan and Ziqian, with a strong killing intent in his eyes. Zhang Ruokan's eyes also stared at Prince Huoxing in the distance, and found that the blood qi in Prince Huoxing's body had obviously increased a lot, and even his eyes had become extremely sharp. Prince Huoxing has broken through to the small pole of the Zan extreme realm. Zhang Ruokan said. What? Lu Chengfeng exclaimed. His face changed, and he became a little worried, and said, Prince Huoxing is already extremely talented, and he is also a genius beast master, and his spiritual power must be quite strong. Coupled with the fact that he has now broken through to the small pole position of the Zan extreme realm, it is estimated that this time he is likely to become the first in the academy exam. Zhang Ruokan asked, what are the benefits of being the first in the academy exam? Lu Chengfeng said. Don't say that you become the first in the academy exam. Even if you become the top 10 in the academy exam, you can get a very rich reward. Even the 10th placed freshman will get 100 merit points. The 9th place freshman can get 200 merit points. And so on. The 4th place freshman can get 700 merit points. The 3rd place freshman can get 1000 merit points. The 2nd place freshman can get 2000 merit points. The freshman who places first can get 3000 merit points. Next to him, a young martial artist said with some disdain, the first place is only 3000 merit points, which is not much. Lu Chengfeng glanced at him and said, the merit value of the Martial City Academy Palace can be exchanged for various cultivation resources, including pills, true martial weapons, brute beast mounts, slaves, palaces. There are only things that you can't think of, and there are no things that the Martial City Academy Palace can't get. As long as you have enough merit points, even if you buy a county, the Martial City Academy Palace can help you do it. A little merit value of the Martial City Academy Palace is equivalent to a spirit crystal. The first place freshman will be rewarded with 3000 merit points, which is equivalent to 3000 spirit crystals, worth 3 million silver coins. Silver coin. The young warriors of Yunwu County. Zhang Ruokan was also slightly surprised. He had only heard that Wuxi Chenjuang was rich in the world, but now he really understood the wealth of Wuxi Chenjuang. Even if it was a powerful seventh-rate family like the Lin family, it was only possible to gather 3 million silver coins if he used the power of the clan and used up all his savings. Now, all you need to do is become the first freshman to get 3000 merit points, worth 3 million silver coins. Obtaining this huge amount of wealth can definitely be exchanged for a large amount of cultivation resources, and it is naturally no longer a problem for cultivation to progress by leaps and bounds. The key is tomorrow's Martial Tower. The better you perform, the higher your results. Lu Chengfeng said. Although the requirements for the cultivation of the martial artist are very high, it also tests the talent and comprehensive quality of the martial artist, such as mental strength, 5 senses, perseverance, judgment, and so on. Ziqian's eyes showed a gleam, and she said, tomorrow's Martial Pagoda Breakthrough, I will definitely enter the top 3 freshmen. Lu Chengfeng looked at Zhang Ruokan thoughtfully, and said, His Royal Highness the 9th Prince, what about you? Zhang Ruokan smiled. I don't know anything about Wu Ta, I can only say do my best. Zhang Ruokan really doesn't know much about Wu Tower, and as for how many floors and levels he can break through, he is naturally completely uncertain. Lu Chengfeng, who was sitting next to him, looked very excited, and said in a low voice, let me tell you quietly, before the Academy Palace exam, I went to the Martial Pagoda to cultivate 3 times. With my current martial arts realm, I am completely sure that I will pass the 3 levels of the first layer of the Martial Tower. As for the second layer of the Martial Tower, I should be able to get through 1 or 2 levels. According to the results of the candidates in previous years, as long as they can pass the 3 levels of the first layer of the Martial Tower, they will almost be able to stand out and become the Outer Palace students of the Western Academy. As for the people who have passed the second layer and the 3rd level, there are very few, and it is estimated that there will be 1 or 2 a year. Sometimes, there is none. Lu Chengfeng smiled. With my talent, coupled with my experience, I have a chance to fight for the top 10. Those warriors of Yunwu County were all moved, staring at Lu Chengfeng with envious eyes. Young Master Lu, tell us about the situation inside the Wu Tower. We are also so prepared. I have 8 spirit crystals here, you can accept them first. A male warrior stuffed 8 spirit crystals into Lu Chengfeng's arms. Young Master Lu, we are all warriors of Yunwu County. If we enter the Wuxi Academy, we can take care of each other in the future, you can tell us about it. These are 5 spirit crystals, you can put them away. The other martial artist took out 5 spirit crystals with some distress and handed them to Lu Chengfeng's hand. Everyone took out the spirit crystal and stuffed it to Lu Chengfeng, wanting to know the news about the Wu Pagoda in advance. After a while, Lu Chengfeng accepted a small pile of spirit crystals, the smile on his face became even brighter, and he coughed dryly twice, and said, I'll tell you a little bit about Wu Pagoda, it's actually not a big deal. First of all, there are 7 floors in the martial tower, and each floor has 3 levels. When I entered the martial pagoda to cultivate, I was only able to achieve the great perfection of the yellow extreme realm. The first time, I didn't even pass the first level of the first layer. The second time, I made it past the first level of the first floor and lost to the second level. The third time, I made it past the second level of the first floor and lost to the third level. A martial artist asked, what are the tests of the 3 levels on the first layer? Lu Chengfeng snapped his fingers and smiled, I can't reveal too much, I can only tell you. The first level is a test of combat skills. The second level is a test of flexibility and speed. The third level is a test of mental strength and willpower. Lu Chengfeng said very vaguely. Everyone still didn't know much about Wu Ta, and they didn't know what they were going to face. When the warriors below were discussing the martial tower, the 2 beautiful women sitting on the stone platform were also talking. The woman's gaze glanced downward, and she said coldly, this year's freshman's cultivation is not bad, and there are a total of 15 martial artists who have reached the small pole position of the Xuanji realm. There are 47 martial artists in the late stage of the Xuanji realm. If there is no accident, this year's top 10 freshmen will be born out of 62 of them. The girl's eyelashes were long and curled, and she smiled with bright eyes. That's not necessarily. Breaking through in the martial tower is more of a test of the martial artist's talent, combat skills, willpower, and spiritual power. It is said that there may not be a little genius in the early stage of the Zanji realm, or in the middle of the Zanji realm. The woman surnamed Huang said, although it is said that the martial tower is more of a test of the talent of a martial artist, the higher the cultivation, the more dominant it will be. After all, it's up to us to see if we can produce a genius who can break through the second and third levels of the martial tower this year. Cleared the second level and 3 levels. It's too difficult. The girl surnamed Duanmu said again, but there are 3 people, but there is a chance. The Prince Huo Xing, of the Sifang County, the Chiming Si, of the Fire Dragon County, and the Yao Yintong, of the Jingyu County. Originally, there was also a Qingyu of the Quartet County, who could also be tied with these 3 people, but unfortunately he was killed during the first round of the academy exam. The corners of the woman's mouth hooked, and she said, isn't that freshman who killed Qingyu even more powerful? The eyes of the girl surnamed Duanmu lit up and said, that's right. Who is it? The eyes of the girl surnamed Duanmu were found among the more than 400 young warriors below. Being able to kill Qingyu, among the freshmen, is definitely quite powerful. The woman surnamed Huang closed her eyes again and said, since you are so curious, then let's go to the martial pagoda tomorrow to take a look at what kind of geniuses are among this batch of freshmen. Yes. Okay. Duanmu became excited, full of expectations for tomorrow's. Early in the morning, when the first rays of sunlight shone into the west courtyard of the Wuxi Academy Palace, under the leadership of the 9 elders, 468 young martial artists came to the bottom of the martial tower. Wu Pagoda, up to 7 floors. The whole tower exudes a metallic luster, not like a built tower, but more like a true martial arts treasure that is integrated into one. Not only the 9 elders, but also many outer palace disciples of the Martial City Academy Palace, came to see the excitement outside the martial tower, wanting to see what kind of genius would emerge from this year's freshmen. The Wuxi Academy only recruits students once a year, which is naturally a grand event. 3 days ago, the vast majority of the outer palace students who took Zhongruokan and others to Tianmaling to participate in the first round of the academy examination were male students. But today it is different. More than 70% of them are female students, and only 30% of male students are men. Those female students, all dressed in white robes, and several of them were beautiful, just like beauties coming out of a picture scroll. Zhang Ruokan stood at the bottom of the Wu Pagoda and asked Lu Chengfeng, "Why are there so many female outer palace students today?" Lu Chengfeng said, "The west courtyard of the Wuxi School Palace is prosperous and the yang is declining. Female students have a much greater voice than male students. For example, to pick us up and inspect the heavenly demon ridge, all these hard and tiring jobs are done by male martial artists." Zhang Ruokan said, "This is too unfair." That's right. But who would dare to resist? Who would dare to argue with them? Against them, you will definitely die a terrible death. Especially the 3 female demons in the West Courtyard, one is more ruthless than the other. If they become the Outer Palace students of the West Courtyard, they must hide when they see them in the future. Lu Chengfeng kept shaking his head and sighing. Zhang Ruokan just smiled faintly, and did not take Lu Chengfeng's words to heart. As long as you are strong enough, how can you be oppressed by women? At this moment, Martial Tower has begun, and 10 people enter the Martial Tower at the same time at one time. Elder Satu stood outside the gate of the Martial Pagoda and read out the list of the first 10 people to enter the Martial Pagoda, and everyone continued to wait. About 3 minutes later, the first warrior who failed to break through the level came out of the Martial Tower. There was a bloody hole in his chest, bleeding constantly, and he was not lightly injured. Everyone was shocked and said, "That person is a cultivator in the early stage of the Xuanji realm, and he actually failed to break through in just 3 minutes." The martial artist who failed to break through the level had a frustrated expression on his face, and said, "I lost in the second level of the first layer, and if I was negligent, I was." He was about to tell his experience in the Martial Tower, when an elder standing in the distance snorted coldly, and an invisible sound wave came out of his mouth, which shocked the young warrior's face pale, and he was about to say what he was about to say, swallowed it back. In just a quarter of an hour, the first batch of warriors who entered the Martial Tower withdrew from the tower one after another come. Among them, 3 people have passed the third level of the first layer, 5 people have passed the second level of the first layer, and 2 people have only passed the first level of the first layer. In the first batch of 10 people, none of them broke through the first level of the second layer. Those 3 martial artists who have passed the third level of the first layer have a great chance of passing the exam and becoming the Outer Palace students of the Martial City Academy. Of course, the final ranking will depend on their specific performance in Wuda. Is the second group of 10 people to enter the Wu Tower. This time, among the 10 people, there was a genius who actually passed the second level of the second layer, and almost passed the third level of the second layer. Someone recognized that genius. It was Kai Minghai of the Fire Dragon Monarchy, who had reached the small pole of the Xuanji realm at the age of only 22. An elder with a jade gourd hanging from his waist sighed softly and said, "It's a pity, I only narrowly missed the third level of the second layer." Elder Xie said, "As a freshman, he is already quite remarkable, and with his performance in the Martial Tower, he will definitely be able to enter the top 5, and possibly even the top 3. Another elder smiled and said, "If no one has passed the second and third levels this year, wouldn't he be the first freshman this year?" Elder Satu stared at Prince Huo Xing standing in the crowd, smiled faintly, and said, "This year, someone will definitely break through the second layer and the third level, wait and see." Elder Satu was quite optimistic about Prince Huo Xing. With Prince Huo Xing's current cultivation at the small pole level of the Xuanji realm, it would not be difficult to break through the third level of the second layer, and it was even possible to break through the first level of the third layer. Wu Ta broke through the level and continued, and soon it was Prince Huo Xing's turn. In just 10 minutes, the tower light on the second floor of the Martial Pagoda lit up, indicating that Prince Huo Xing had broken through to the second floor of the Martial Tower. Breaking into the second floor of the Martial Tower in 10 minutes, Prince Huo Xing is really not simple, he is worthy of being a young genius of the Quartet County. It is said that he is also a genius beast master, and with his talent, he will definitely be able to pass the third level of the second layer. This year's freshman is the first, and it is probably him. A rather beautiful female student of the Outer Palace showed an admiring look in her beautiful eyes. Huo Shusho, you don't want to be a princess, do you? Another female student laughed. The outer palace student named Huo Shusho said, so what? Prince Huo Xing is not only a prince, but also extremely talented, as long as it is a woman, who doesn't want to marry him? Wow. Half an hour passed, and the tower light on the third floor of the Wu Pagoda lit up. This shows that Prince Huo Xing has broken into the third layer of the Wu Tower. Below the Wu Tower, all the warriors were shocked. The first freshman this year must be Prince Huo Xing. If he can make it through the first level of the third layer, it will be amazing. It is said that the 3 female demons of the current Martial City School Palace all passed the first level of the third layer of the Martial Pagoda when they were admitted to the Martial City School Palace. Everyone talked about it and looked excited. Minutes passed, and Prince Huo Xing finally walked out of the Elder Satu immediately greeted him and asked, have you passed the first level of the third layer? With a hint of a smile on his face, Prince Huo Xing proudly looked at the other young martial artists, and finally, his eyes were fixed on Zhang Ruokan's body, and he said with a smile, I passed the first level of the third layer, but unfortunately I lost the second level of the third layer. Good. Elder Satu said with great joy. Finished speaking, outside the Wu Tower, there was a sudden. That's amazing. Actually passed the first level of the third layer, and his talent is probably not far from the 3 female demons who ruled the Western Courtyard. Awesome. With Prince Huo Xing's powerful talent, he may be able to break the situation of the Western Courtyard's yin and yang declining. A male outer palace Shuigung said with some excitement. He is the first freshman. In the midst of everyone's admiration, the next group of warriors entered the martial tower. Among this group of warriors, there is not only Ziqian, but also Yao Qingtong, the proud daughter of Jingyu County. 10 people entered the Wu Pagoda at the same time. 4 minutes later, the first warrior failed to break through and withdrew from the tower. 10 minutes later, 5 more people withdrew from the tower. A moment later, the second floor of the Wu Pagoda was lit up. The 9 elders under the martial pagoda all nodded, and one of the elders exclaimed, this group of martial artists is not bad. There are actually 4 people entering the second layer at the same time. I don't know how far they can go. Yao Qingtong has been a genius since he was a child. He opened the Divine Martial Mark at the age of 4, and it is also the 6th rank Flying Snow Divine Martial Mark. It shouldn't be difficult to pass the third level of the second layer. Elder Xie was also full of confidence in Ziqian, feeling that she also had a chance to break through the third level of the second layer. Half an hour passed, and the tower light on the third floor of the Wu Pagoda lit up. You must know that until this time, only 8 martial artists have withdrawn from the martial tower. In other words, a total of 2 people have passed the third level of the second layer. Moreover, those 2 continued to break through the first level of the third layer. Those 2 are Yao Qingtong from Jingyu County and Ziqian from Yunwu County. I didn't expect that there will be 2 extremely talented female Tianzhao in the West Courtyard this year. The faces of the 9 elders were all a little strange. After all, the West Courtyard had been in decline for nearly 100 years. Originally thought that the appearance of Prince Huo Xing would have a chance to break the current situation, but who would have thought that 2 genius women would suddenly appear? It's dangerous. If they also pass the first level of the third layer, then in the next few years, the West Academy would continue to be dominated by female students, and it would be difficult for male students to turn over. Prince Huo Xing sneered and said, the difficulty of the first level of the third layer is so great that even I almost failed. They will definitely not be able to break through. Zhang Ruokan is still very confident in Ziqian. After all, she is a sage bloodline, and she has a very strange physique, with a very good sense of sight, hearing, and smell, all of which have reached a very high level. Her talent is definitely no worse than Prince Huo Xing, and even slightly stronger than Prince Huo Xing. It didn't take long for Yao Qingtong and Ziqian to come out of the Wu Pagoda almost at the same time. The 9 elders immediately went to inquire about their results. Yao Qingtong said, I passed the first level of the third layer and lost in the second level. Ziqian also nodded and said, me too. The 9 elders laughed at the same time. This year's freshmen were simply too rebellious, and 3 geniuses who had passed the first level of the third layer appeared one after another. You must know that in the history of the West Academy, many times, there will not be a genius who has passed the first level of the third layer for 10 consecutive years. In recent years, it has appeared frequently. This is a good omen. If there are no accidents, Prince Huo Xing, Yao Qingtong, and Ziqian will be the top 3 freshmen this year. As for the specific ranking, it depends on their performance in the martial arts. Purple Girl, she is really strong, she has actually passed the first level of the 3rd layer, and she will definitely be focused on cultivating. A warrior of the Yunwu County Kingdom said with envy. Lu Chengfeng showed a bitter expression on his face and said, "This year's freshmen are really too bad. I originally thought that I had a chance to compete for the top 10, but now the chance has become slim." Of martial arts towers. Lu Chengfeng, Zhang Ruokan, Xie. Including Lu Chengfeng and Zhang Ruokan, a group of 10 young warriors came out of the crowd and stood in front of the 9 elders. There are a total of 6 Xuanji Realm early stage, 3 Xuanji Realm mid stage, and 1 Xuanji Realm small pole. That martial artist of the Xuanji Realm Xiaoji, named Xie Jiaowu, was a genius of the Xie family of the Sifang County. Xie Jiaowu glanced at Zhang Ruokan and the others, with a trace of contempt in his eyes, and secretly said in his heart, "Their cultivation is too weak. Among this group of martial artists, I will definitely be able to stand out and become the best one." Prince Huo Xing's eyes stared at Zhang Ruokan and frowned slightly. He can kill Qingyu, his talent must be very high. However, after all, he was only a cultivator in the middle stage of the Zan Extreme Realm, and at most he had passed the 2nd and 3rd levels. 10 people walked into the 1st floor of the Wu Tower. Walking into the gate of the Wu Tower, 10 more small doors appeared inside. Above the 10 small gates, there are 3 ancient words engraved, the 1st level. Zhang Ruokan looked very casual and walked directly into the 2nd small door. The other 9 warriors also chose a small door to walk into. As soon as Zhang Ruokan walked into the small door, he came to a closed martial arts training ground surrounded by iron walls on all sides. This enclosed martial arts training ground is quite spacious, with a length and width of 20 meters and a height of 30 meters. There are 16 concave walls on all 4 sides, and 16 bronze lamps are placed in them. Zhang Ruokan walked to the center of the martial arts training ground and looked at the stone wall above. In the stone wall, a young warrior about 20 years old walked out and stood up to Zhang Ruochen on the other side. He said, "I am Luo Shu, representing the strongest force in the middle of the Xuanji realm. As long as you can catch my 3 moves, you can pass the 1st level." Luo Shu, who was standing opposite Zhang Ruokan, was not a real person, but a spiritual void body condensed by Wu Ta with aura. Zhang Ruokan said, "Can you represent the strongest force in the middle stage of the Zan Extreme Realm?" Luo smiled and said, "The west courtyard of the Martial City Academy in the Heavenly Demon Ridge has been open for a total of 460 years, and every year young martial artists come to break into the Martial Pagoda, including not only new students like you, but also old students who have cultivated in the west courtyard for a period of time. I am the most powerful martial artist in the middle of the Xuanji realm in the 460 years of the western courtyard." Zhang Ruokan seemed to understand something, and said, "If my cultivation reaches the late stage of the Zanji realm, what I will encounter is the most powerful martial artist in the late stage of the Zanji realm in the 460 years of the western courtyard." Luo smiled and said, "Exactly." Zhang Ruokan nodded and asked, "If you take 3 moves, even if you pass the 1st level?" "That's right." Zhang Ruokan said, "Then what if I defeat you?" Luo Shui said, "Then you can directly enter the 2nd level, and in the future, you will also replace me and become the gatekeeper of the mid-stage martial artist of the Xuanji realm. However, it shouldn't be easy for you to defeat me. Give it a try." Zhang Ruokan held the soul-flashing sword and stood with a horizontal sword, and the whole person merged with the surrounding space. He didn't use the space realm, he just wanted a fair battle with the most powerful Xuanji realm mid-stage martial artist in the West Courtyard in the past 460 years. In the Wu Tower, in the most central secret room, there are 2 very beautiful women. The woman surnamed Huang and the girl surnamed Duanmu sat in the center of the secret room, and in front of them, there were 10 aura mirrors suspended, and you could see the scene of the 10 warriors breaking through. The people who originally guarded the Martial Pagoda were the 2 silver-robed elders of the Martial City Academy. However, the woman surnamed Huang and the girl surnamed Duanmu wanted to see the geniuses among this year's freshmen, so they discussed with the 2 elders and let them help guard the Wu Pagoda. The woman surnamed Huang had a cold temperament on her body, and her long royal blue hair hung down from her cheeks, making her skin look unusually fair. She stared at the 10 aura mirrors and said lightly, "After Prince Huo Xing, Yao Qingtong, and Zi Qian, there is nothing to see in this year's martial pagoda. Even if there are any more geniuses, it is impossible to surpass the three of them, and overall, this year's freshmen are not bad. I'm going back to cultivating." The woman surnamed Huang seemed to be lacking in interest, stood up, her tall and beautiful figure was vividly displayed, and walked towards the outside of the Wu Pagoda. The woman surnamed Duanmu was still staring at one of the aura mirrors, her eyes getting brighter and brighter, and she exclaimed, "Interesting. It's so much fun." The woman surnamed Huang, who had already walked to the door, stopped and said lightly, "Duanmu Xingling, do you want to continue watching?" The girl who looked to be 13 or 14 years old was one of the 3 female demons in the western courtyard, Duan Jupiter Spirit. The woman surnamed Huang is also one of the 3 female devils, named Huang Yanchen. Both of them are Xuanbang martial artists, and they are invincible in the western courtyard. Duanmu Xingling beckoned to Huang Yanchen and said, "Sister Chen, come over and see, that martial artist in the middle of the Xuanji realm can actually fight with Luo Shu." "How is that possible? Luo Shu is the most outstanding Tianzhao in the Martial City Academy Palace of the Heavenly Demon Ridge in the past 460 years, a generation of ghost talents. Can anyone compete with him in the same realm?" Huang Yanchen didn't believe it, but she still walked back and looked towards the aura mirror. In the mirror, 2 men are engaged in a fierce confrontation. They were extremely fast, forming more than a dozen afterimages. The expression on Huang Yanchen's face finally changed slightly, and a hint of joy appeared in a pair of beautiful starry eyes, as if he had discovered a new continent, and said, "How many moves have they fought so far?" Duan Jupiter Spirit said, 74 moves. Huang Yanchen sat on the ground again, picked up a list on the ground, looked at the list, and said, "He should be the 9th prince of Yunwu County, Zhang Ruokan. His name actually has the word dust in it. Doesn't he know that he has violated my taboo?" Duanmu Xingling smiled. "You won't force him to change his name, will you? Wait until he crosses the martial tower." Huang Yanchen said coldly, "If he can catch Luo Shu's 100 moves, it means that he is a top genius. As long as he changes his name, I can still spare his life." For top geniuses, Huang Yanchen still admires them very much. Suddenly, the picture on the aura mirror changed, and Zhang Ruokan's swordsmanship became sharp, forcing Luo Zan to keep retreating. How is that possible? Duan Jupiter Spirit and Yellow Smoke and Dust both held their breath and stared at the mirror tightly. Wow! Zhang Ruokan took 3 steps forward, passed through a heavy sword shadow, and stabbed out with a sword, piercing Luo Shu's eyebrows. Luo Shu's body froze, and a sword edge appeared in the center of his eyebrows. Zhang Ruokan withdrew his soul-flashing sword and took 3 steps back. "You've won, your talent is above mine." Luo smiled falsely. Then, his body became more and more illusory, disintegrating into wisps of aura and disappearing. Luo Shu's cultivation is really powerful. In the same realm, he can actually catch my 93 moves, and he is worthy of being the most powerful mid-stage martial artist of the Xuanji realm in the 460 years of the Western Courtyard. Of course, if I use the power of the space realm, it is estimated that I will be able to defeat Luo Shu in about 10 moves. Zhang Ruokan's arm turned. He retracted the flash soul sword from its scabbard, opened the metal iron door, and walked directly towards the 2nd floor of the Wu Tower. After defeating Luo Shu, Zhang Ruokan didn't have to continue to break through the 2nd and 3rd levels of the 1st layer, and directly entered the 2nd layer. Duanmu Xingling and Huang Yanchen let out a long breath, and when they glanced at each other, they could see the shock in each other's eyes. He actually defeated Luo Shu in 100 moves. Duan Jupiter Spirit was still a little incredulous. Huang Yanchen said, "It's not to defeat, it's to kill." Within 100 moves, he killed Luo Shu, who was in the same realm as him, which was really terrifying. I'd like to see how many floors and how many levels he can get to. Duanmu Xingling's eyes narrowed into a slit, full of interest in Zhang Ruokan. Zhang Ruokan entered the 1st level of the 2nd layer of the Wu Tower. It is still a closed martial arts training ground, very similar to the 1st level of the 1st layer. Wow! In the stone wall, another warrior with a spiritual void body came out. It turned out to be Luo Shu again. At Zhang Ruokan and said with a smile, "We meet again." Zhang Ruokan was slightly surprised, and said, "The gatekeeper of the first level of the second layer is still you." Luo Shu nodded and said, "That's right. Now, if you can catch my move, you will pass the first level of the second level of the martial tower. One thing I need to remind you is that I am now a cultivator in the late stage of the Zon Extreme Realm, and I am the most powerful martial artist in the late stage of the Zon Extreme Realm. The most powerful late-stage martial artist of the Zon Extreme Realm." Zhang Ruokan's face became serious, and he didn't dare to despise Luo Shu in the middle of the Xuanji realm. Luo Shu was the strongest person in the same realm. In the late stage of the Xuanji realm, Luo Shu turned out to be the strongest person in the same realm. With Luo Shu's cultivation in the late stage of the Xuanji realm, it is not difficult to defeat the martial artists of the Xuanji realm. Is enough to fight with the extreme martial artists in the A martial artist in the middle of the Xuanji realm. If he wants to catch a move of a martial artist in the middle of the Xuanji realm, it is even more difficult than ascending to the sky. However, Zhang Ruokan was not an ordinary martial artist in the middle of the Xuanji realm, and in the face of Luo Shu, he did not have the slightest fear in his heart, and said, "What if I defeat you?" Luo smiled and said, "If you can defeat me, not only will you not have to go through the other two levels of the second layer, but you won't even have to break through the first level of the third layer." "Don't you use weapons?" Zhang Ruokan pulled out the soul-flashing sword and pointed at Luo Shu. Luo Shu said, "If I use weapons, I'm afraid few people will be able to pass the first level of the second layer. In fact, when other martial artists break through the first level of the second layer, as long as they can catch Luo Shu's move and stand up, they can already be regarded as passing." "Good. Let's fight," Zhang Ruokan said. The first move, Luo Shui goes to see. Luo Shu's 5 fingers were clenched into fists, and his steps were like turning into a gale, and his speed reached 42 meters per second, a few points faster than the average extreme martial artist in the Zon Extreme realm. Ordinary martial artists in the middle of the Xuanji realm are estimated to not even be able to see Luo Shu's shadow clearly, let alone catch Luo Shu's move. Zhang Ruokan did not use the power of the space realm, injected aura into his eyes and ears, and judged Luo Shu's moves with his own eyes and hearing. Zhang Ruokan's body moved a step to the left, dodging Luo Shu's punch, and at the same time, Zhang Ruokan swung his sword and slashed at Luo Shu's waist. The second move, Luo Shui returns. Luo Shu's body jumped up like a flying fish, forming an arc, and punched Zhang Ruokan's chest, and the power that erupted seemed to be a little stronger than just now. His fist appeared in front of Zhang Ruokan in an instant. If Zhang Ruokan was hit by a punch, he would definitely be seriously injured. Heavenly Heart Sword Bell. Zhang Ruokan blocked the horizontal sword, and the powerful sword chi condensed into the phantom of a big bell. Bang! Luo Shu's fist struck the surface of the great bell phantom. The phantom of the bell immediately dented and shattered. The powerful fist force shook Zhang Ruokan upside down and flew out. Luo Shu didn't give Zhang Ruokan a chance to breathe, and immediately attacked again, throwing a third punch. The third move, Luo Shui's sword punch, was like turning into a sword chi and stabbing towards fist to sword. Only by cultivating the boxing technique to an extremely high level can you hit the fist power like a sword. What a powerful Luo Shu! If I hadn't cultivated to the supreme extreme realm of the yellow extreme realm, it is estimated that in the same realm, the strength of me and him would only be half a catty and 8 tails. Because Zhang Ruokan successfully cultivated the supreme extreme realm of the yellow extreme realm, he had to cultivate one more realm than Luo Shu, so he could defeat Luo Zan in the same realm. Now, Luo Shu is one realm higher than Zhang Ruokan, and it is almost impossible for Zhang Ruokan to defeat him. Heavenly Heart shows the way. Zhang Ruokan slashed out with a sword, breaking Luo Shu's fist. Subsequently, he did not retreat but advanced, and took the initiative to attack Luo Shu in the Wu Tower, in the central secret room. Huang Yanshan stared at the scene on the aura mirror and said, "Luo Zan is using a spirit-level martial art, Luo Shui 36 fists." Duan Muxingling asked, "Sister Chen, when Luo Shu was in the late stage of the Xuanji realm, how many punches did he cultivate the Luo Shui 36 fists?" 9 fists. Yellow Smoke Road. Duan Muxingling nodded and said, "Do you think Zhang Ruokan can catch Luo Shu's punch?" "I can't tell." Huang Yanchen shook his head lightly and said, "Zhang Ruokan's talent is quite against the sky. If he can block Luo Shu's 9 fists, he will have the strength to fight with Luo Shu." Duan Jupiterling Dao. Impossible. What kind of person Luo Shu's predecessors are? In the same realm, there are few people who are his opponents. What's more, to cross the realm to contend with him. Read on and you'll know. Zhang Ruokan has already taken Luo Shu's 6 punches. Huang Yanchen also felt incredible, and couldn't believe his eyes. Luo Shu, who was an invincible powerhouse 200 years ago, has always been a legend of the Western Academy. Zhang Ruokan defeated Luo Shu in the same realm, which was already quite remarkable. If the news gets out, it will definitely cause a huge shock. If so, Zhang Ruokan can cross the realm and defeat Luo Shu, causing a sensation that is unimaginable. 8th move, Luo Shui Dragon. The momentum on Luo Shu's body became stronger and stronger, and the surging true qi formed a circle of water lines around his body. It was as if he was standing on a big river and punching, and the sound of water was heard in the air. The big river turned into a water dragon more than 10 meters long, surging towards Zhang Ruokan. Heavenly Heart-Broken Plum. Zhang Ruokan stabbed out with a sword and pointed at the center of the water dragon's eyebrows. However, Zhang Ruokan's sword hilt did not pierce the eyebrows of the water dragon. It was like hitting the iron wall, making a sound of metal impact. Boom. The soul-flashing sword in Zhang Ruokan's hand was so shocked by the powerful force that it almost flew out of his hand, and his entire right arm became very numb, and he couldn't use any strength at all. At this moment, Luo Shu's 9th punch was struck. The 9th move, Luo Shui is out of flow. Zhang Ruokan clenched his teeth, did not admit defeat, raised his left arm, and all the true qi in his body surged towards his left arm, and roared. The dragon elephant returns to the field. The dragon is like a palm, the 3rd palm. Boom. Clash of fists. 2 powerful forces collided together, making a loud and piercing sound. Zhang Ruokan spat out a mouthful of blood and flew out. He forcibly steadied his body and retreated. Although he looked very embarrassed, he did not fall to the ground, and still supported his body and remained standing. Zhang Ruokan's 2 arms were painful and cracking. If Luo Zan punched again at this time, he would definitely lose. At Luo Shu, who was standing opposite, and said, "You." Luo Shu shook his head and said, "You won. I only cultivated the Luo Shui 36 fists into 9 fists in the late stage of the Xuanji realm, and now that the 9 fists have been beaten, I still can't knock you down." Zhang Ruokan said, "The first punch you hit only used 20% of your strength, and the second punch you hit used 30% of your strength, and after that, for each punch, only 10% of your strength was added. Only when you land the 9th punch do you use 10% of your power. If you use 100% of your strength from the moment you throw the first punch, I won't be able to stop you with 9 punches." Luo smiled and said, "However, you must know that other martial artists in the middle stage of the Xuanji realm only need to catch the first punch of my 2 layers of strength to be able to pass this level." Zhang Ruokan nodded, but he was not discouraged in his heart. After all, the other party was the strongest person in the West Courtyard in the past 460 years, and it was not a shame to lose to him when he was 1 realm lower than him. What's more, Zhang Ruokan did not use the space field. If the space field is used, it is not certain who will win and who will lose. Of course, the Luo Zan that Zhang Ruokan saw now was just a spiritual void body condensed by Wu Ta with aura, and he was not a real person. The combat power of this spirit void body does not represent Luo Shu's true strength. There is no point in chasing too much about winning or losing. After Zhang Ruokan rested for a while, he felt that his body had recovered 70 or 80%, and then walked into the metal iron door and went to break through the 2nd level of the 2nd layer. Zhang Ruokan did not defeat Luo Shu, so he naturally had to break through the 2nd and 3rd levels of the 2nd layer. The 2nd level of the 2nd level is a 30-meter-long passage, only 3 meters wide, with small circular holes in the iron walls on both sides. Woohoo! Walking into the passage, inside the small holes in the iron walls on both sides, short palm-length arrows were immediately shot. Zhang Ruokan didn't draw his sword, but just waved the scabbard and knocked down all the short arrows he shot. He walked step by step through the 30-meter-long passage, without the slightest pause, looking very relaxed. Of course, it is also for him that it will seem relaxed. If it were to be replaced by another martial artist in the middle of the Xuanji realm, it would not be easy to think of dodging the dense rain of arrows. Wu Tower, 2nd floor, 3rd level. Passing through the arrow corridor of the 2nd level, Zhang Ruokan stepped on the hard ground and came to the 3rd level. Pushing open the iron gate of the 3rd level, a 1-zhang square pool appeared in front of him, and he saw a transparent and crystalline jade tablet standing next to the pool. A line of words appeared on the jade tablet: count the number of ripples in the pool, and the error shall not exceed 10 ripples. What do you mean by counting ripples? Before Zhang Ruokan could react, he heard the sound of falling water. Boom! A silver coin fell and smashed down on the calm surface of in the pool. A circle of ripples immediately appeared, from the central seat, towards the edge of the pool. Although Zhang Ruokan didn't understand the meaning of this level, he immediately stared at the water surface and counted the number of ripples: 1, 2, 3. Ripples are getting thinner and weaker, and the difficulty of observation is also increasing. This is a test of the martial artist's mental power, observation, judgment, and willpower. Zhang Ruokan's eyes became more and more dry, and even a little stinging, but he still stared at the pool and did not take his eyes off. It seems to be a very simple thing, but it contains the avenue of martial arts. First of all, mental power. If the mental power is not strong enough, you can't see the subtle changes in the ripples at all. Second, observation. Only a discerning person can see every ripple. Because, after the ripples spread out from the center, they hit the iron wall by the pool, and began to surge in the opposite direction, affecting the observation of the warrior to a certain extent. People who are not observant enough, when the water ripples back, will definitely panic and lose this level. Third, judgment. As the ripples became weaker and weaker, it even seemed that the water had completely calmed down. At this time, it is the time to test the judgment of the martial artist. When is the water truly calm? Fourth, willpower. In the case of a high degree of mental concentration, there is also the number of ripples that are constantly counted, and people's eyes are very easy to get tired, and it is impossible for people without willpower to hold on until the water surface is completely calm. About 15 minutes passed, and the water finally calmed down. Zhang Ruokan's eyes were burning with pain, and he closed his eyes and let his eyes rest a little. Fortunately, I have opened up my eye veins, and my eyesight is far beyond that of a martial artist in the same realm. Moreover, my spiritual power is strong, reaching more than 30 steps, and I can clearly distinguish every ripple. It's not too difficult for me. Zhang Ruokan walked in front of the jade steel, lifted an inscription pen on the ground, and carved a number on the jade steel. 2,765 water lines. Wow! On the surface of the jade steel, a white light appeared, and a line of words appeared. 2,765 water lines, 0 error. Clearance. Zhang Ruokan smiled faintly. Sure enough, it's the same as what I observed. However, this level is still quite good, and it is no wonder that so many people cannot pass this level. This is a test of the comprehensive quality of a martial artist. Boom! The door to the 3rd floor of the martial pagoda opens. Zhang Ruokan walked straight in, climbed the step-by-step stairs, and came to the 3rd floor of the Wu Tower. The tower light on the 3rd floor of the Wu Pagoda is lit. At this moment, those young martial artists and 9 elders outside the martial pagoda were once again alarmed. 8 of the 10 warriors who originally entered the martial pagoda with Zhang Ruokan had already retreated, leaving only Xie Jiaowu of the Sifeng County and Zhang Ruokan of the Yunwu monarchy still breaking through the martial tower. Another person has broken through the 3rd level of the 2nd layer and entered the 3rd level of the Wu Tower. Who could it be? It must be Xie Jiaowu of the Quartet monarchy. Yes, it must be Xie Jiaowu. Although Xie Jiaowu's reputation is not as good as that of Prince Huo Xing and Qingyu, he is still a genius in the small pole position of the Xuanji realm. After all, at such a young age, how can he be a mediocre person who has reached the small pole level of the Xuanji realm? No one would think that it was Zhang Ruokan who had passed the third level of the second layer. After all, Zhang Ruokan was too young, only 16 years old, and he was only a cultivator in the middle stage of the Xuanji realm. Even Elder Situ nodded lightly and said, Xie Jiawu must have hidden his strength before, just to wait until the martial pagoda broke through to make a splash. If this son can have such a mind, he will surely have great achievements in the future. The other 8 elders all had cold faces, and they didn't want to see Elder Situ's smug look. Elder Situ is the guide of the warriors of the Sifang County, and the better the results of the martial artists of the Sifang Zhongguo, the more rewards Elder Situ will get. Seeing the third layer tower lights on, Elder Situ was of course very happy, and he couldn't help but feel proud. But the next moment, the expression on Elder Situ's face froze. Squeak. The gate of the Wu Pagoda opened, and Xie Jiawu walked out of the gate with his head down. Xie Jiawu raised his head slightly, just in time to see the 9 elders staring at him with wide eyes, which startled him and made him take a step back in fright. What happened? Greeted him and asked, Xie Jiawu, how many levels have? Seeing Elder Situ's domineering appearance, Xie Jiawu was so frightened that he took a step back again, and after stabilizing his footsteps, he said in a trembling voice, Elder Wei, I passed the second level of the second layer and failed at the third level. Elder Situ, what the hell is going on? Elder Situ's face immediately turned the color of pig liver, and he was even a little angry, and shouted, since you have lost the third level of the second layer, why is the tower light on the third floor of the martial pagoda? What? The tower light on the third floor of the martial pagoda is lit. Xie Jiawu was even more surprised than Elder Situ. Elder Xie, who was standing not far away, laughed loudly and said, Elder Situ, you must know that there is still a young martial artist in the martial tower. Since Xie Jiawu failed, then it must be that young martial artist who has passed the third level of the second layer. The 9th Prince of Yunwu County, Zhang Ruokan. At this moment, everyone finally reacted and couldn't help but show a shocked look. If a martial artist in the middle of the Xuanji realm can also break through the third level of the second layer of the martial tower, it would be incredible. Only Ziqian was the calmest present, because no one knew Zhang Ruokan's strength better than her. If Zhang Ruokan didn't pass the second layer and the third level, it would be a strange thing. Go down. Elder Situ glared at Xie Jiawu fiercely, and then said, someone, send Zhang Ruokan's information to Elder Ben. Elder Situ still didn't believe in the middle stage of the Zan Extreme Realm the martial artist was able to pass the third level of the second layer, and wanted to check this Zhang Ruokan. It didn't take long for a disciple of the Outer Palace to send Zhang Ruokan's information to Elder Situ. How is that possible? After seeing Zhang Ruokan's information, Elder Situ was shocked, and his eyes were about to jump out of his sockets. The other 8 elders showed curious looks. What was so great about Zhang Ruokan's information? How could it shock Elder Situ like that? Calm down. Calm. Elder Situ, you are a lot of age. You should learn not to be surprised. How can the information of a young genius make you shocked like this? Elder Xie said with a smile. Elder Situ's face turned grim, and he said, don't say cool things, come and see for yourself. The 8 elders looked at each other and walked over, all looking at Zhang Ruokan's information. After reading it, the expressions of the 8 elders became exactly the same as those of Elder Situ, and they were so shocked that they were speechless for a long time. I only opened the divine martial mark at the age of 16, and now, I've only been cultivating for less than a year, right? After cultivating for less than a year, you have reached the middle stage of the Zan Extreme Realm. Look here, after only half a year of cultivation, you have become a yellow list martial artist, ranking first on the yellow list. Oh, my god, what kind of amazing genius is this? Although Elder Xie was the guide of the young martial artists of Yunwu County, he had not gone through Zhang Ruokan's information before. At this moment, Elder Xie saw Zhang Ruokan's information for the first time, and scolded loudly, Lu Xuanshan, that bastard, why didn't you tell me in advance that Zhang Ruokan was so demonic? What a pity! What a pity! Of course, Elder Xie was quite depressed, and his bowels were blue. If he had known that Zhang Ruokan's talent was so high, on the way to bring Zhang Ruokan to the Wuxi Academy Palace, he would have accepted Zhang Ruokan as a disciple in advance. Now, it's late. A genius with such high talent will definitely be accepted as a personal disciple by the Dean of the Western Academy, and it will not be his turn at all. Elder Xie scolded the 18 generations of Lu Xuanxin's ancestors. Lu Chengfeng stood not far away, with a displeased look on his face, and muttered in a low voice, "Uncle Xie has always been gentle and elegant, why did he suddenly scold my father? Forget it, he's an elder, so I don't care about him." Lu Chengfeng was also quite depressed. Zhang Ruokan walked into the first level of the third layer of the martial tower, and then came to a closed martial arts training ground, which was very similar to the first level of the first layer and the first level of the second layer. Wow! On the stone wall, Luo Shu's spiritual void body came out again. Luo Shu glanced at Zhang Ruokan and said with a smile, "This level, no need to fight. You've already cleared the first level of the second layer." Zhang Ruokan could see that the aura on Luo Shu's body was still in the late stage of the Xuanji realm, so he asked, "At this level, I need to catch a few moves from my predecessors before I can pass the level." 3 moves. Luo Zudao. Luo Shu's first move is 2% strength, the second move is 3% strength, and the third move is 4% strength. As long as you catch Luo Shu's 3 moves, you will be able to pass the first level of the third layer. You must know that when Zhang Ruokan was in the first level of the second layer, he took all 9 of Luo Shu's moves. Therefore, there is no need to fight again in this level, and you can pass the level directly. Stared at Luo Shu and said, "I have a question in my heart. I can answer you a question." Luo smiled falsely. Zhang Ruokan said, "In the 460 years of the Western Courtyard, the most powerful martial artist in the middle stage of the Zan Extreme Realm is you, and the most powerful martial artist in the late stage of the Zan Extreme Realm is still you. Isn't it the 7 realms of the Xuanji realm, and you are all the strongest?" Luo Shui said, "Before you appeared, it was true. However, after you appear, I believe that you will replace me in every realm and become the new gatekeeper of the martial tower." After speaking, Luo Shu's body turned into wisps of aura and disappeared into the martial arts training ground. Zhang Ruokan smiled lightly and walked towards the second level of the third layer. Walking out of the martial arts training ground, Zhang Ruokan came to the second level of the third floor of the martial tower. Among this year's young martial artists, it seems that no one has been able to break through the second level of the third layer. This level will definitely not be as easy as the second level of the second layer. Stared at the words on the wall, looking at the rules of this. "I see, it's that simple." Zhang Ruokan nodded and opened the door of the second level of the third floor of the Wu Tower. It is also a 30-meter-long closed corridor, only 3 meters wide, and on the left and right sides of the corridor, there are 9 metal bronze figures. A total of 18 metal bronze figures. According to the introduction above the rules of the level, the body of each bronze figure weighs 1,000 catties, all of which are refined by a refiner, with inscriptions engraved on the body, inlaid with spirit crystals, and the body is as hard as a true martial weapon. In the realm of refiners, they are called alchemists. The strength and speed of each refining warrior were comparable to a martial artist at the peak of the late stage of the Zanji realm. You must know that the body of the refining warrior is like copper and iron, with infinite strength and no flaws. Therefore, when it comes to a real battle, a refining warrior can compete with a martial artist of the Xuanji realm who is at a small pole. In other words, Zhang Ruokan is now facing 18 martial artists comparable to the small poles of the Xuanji realm, and moreover, he is still in such a narrow passage. It is almost impossible for a martial artist in the middle of the Xuanji realm to walk through this passage. Ziqian, Prince Huo Xing, and Yao Qingtong are all cultivators of the Xuanji realm small pole rank, so they must be facing 18 refining warriors who are comparable to the great pole rank of the Xuanji realm. No wonder they all lost. This level, great. Zhang Ruokan put away the flash soul sword, because the requirement of this level is that you can't use weapons. Let's fight. Zhang Ruokan rolled up his 2 sleeves, his eyes gradually became firm, and he took a step and stepped into the passage. The bodies of the 2 refining warriors standing at the front moved slightly, and 2 flames emerged from a pair of dark and deeply sunken eyes. The sound of metal crashing sounded, and the two refiner warriors came to life. Wow! Two refiner warriors shot at the same time. The refining warrior on the left swung his fist at Zhang Ruokan's face, and a fire light appeared above the fist, like a fist of flames, bursting out with terrifying power, turning into a wave of heat surging towards Zhang Ruokan. The refining warrior on the right stretched out a steel thigh, and with a cold and icy energy, it swept towards Zhang Ruokan's lower plate. They were incredibly fast, and they were in a confined space, and there was no way to dodge. Zhang Ruokan's body leaned back slightly, dodging the metal fist of the refiner warrior on the left. At the same time, he quickly struck out a palm and struck the chest of the refining warrior. Bang! Zhang Ruokan's palm power was so strong, he knocked that refining warrior upside down against the wall with one palm, and the entire wall shook slightly. However, that refining warrior did not suffer any damage, and immediately attacked Zhang Ruokan again. Immortal. Zhang Ruokan's speed was much faster than that of the refining warriors, and he had previously taken 3 steps in a row, dodging the serial attacks of the two refining warriors. However, an even greater crisis emerged. Because Zhang Ruokan took 3 steps forward, waking up the two refining warriors in front of him. The two refining warriors in front and the two refining warriors in the back surrounded Zhang Ruokan in the center and attacked Zhang Ruokan at the same time. Bang! Boom! Bang! Warriors, 8 metal arms, and 8 metal long legs, all in all directions, there are palm shadows and foot shadows. The true chi in Zhang Ruokan's body was running rapidly, and his legs were moving rapidly, either sideways or sweeping. A pair of arms are constantly waving, either palming or blocking. Elephants gallop to the ground. Zhang Ruokan hit 4 palms in a row at an extremely fast speed. Boom! The 4 refining warriors were all knocked out by Zhang Ruokan, some hit the wall, and some fell to the ground, which was simply scattered. Zhang Ruokan continued to walk forward, and 2 more refining warriors attacked him at the same time, and the 4 refining warriors behind him also got up from the ground and chased after him again. No, I must fight quickly, and if I am surrounded by 18 refiner warriors, I will definitely be defeated. This thought quickly flashed through Zhang Ruokan's mind. Bang! Zhang Ruokan's legs squatted, his arms slashed out diagonally, and he threw the refiner warrior on the left backwards, smashing the 4 refiner warriors who caught up to the ground. Pick up the pace and rush forward. The dragon elephant returns to the field. The dragon is in the sky. Elephants gallop to the ground. Bang bang! Zhang Ruokan's speed was extremely fast, and he walked through the corridor with a sweeping momentum. Through the corridor, all 18 refining warriors stood. Zhang Ruokan looked at the bruises on his arms and sighed. After all, it's flesh and blood, and it's too much of a loss to fight these refining warriors. But I finally managed to break through, continued to walk forward and entered the 3rd level of the open corner bracket. He actually passed the 2nd level of the 3rd layer unscathed, and with his ability, he might be able to break through the 3rd level of the 3rd layer. Duan Jupiter Ling squeezed a pair of snow-white jade hands tightly, staring at the aura mirror, very unhappy in his heart. You must know that when she first entered the Martial Tower, she did not pass the 2nd level of the 3rd layer. In the history of the Western Courtyard, there were only 3 freshmen who entered the Martial Pagoda for the first time, and those who were able to break through the 2nd level of the 3rd layer. Zhang Ruokan is the 4th. Duan Muxing Spirit said, Sister Chen, do you think he can break through the 3rd level of the 3rd layer? Huang Yanshan pondered for a moment and said, in the history of the West Courtyard, only 1 freshman has passed the 3rd of the 3rd layer Guan, that is the gatekeeper of the Wu Tower, Luo Shu. Since Zhang Ruokan can defeat Luo Shu in the same realm, he may be able to break through the 3rd level of the 3rd layer. Moreover, if he has passed the 3rd level of the 3rd layer, he does not need to break the 1st level of the 4th layer, because he has already passed the 1st level of the 4th layer when he is in the 1st level of the 2nd layer. The 1st level of the 4th layer is to catch Luo Shu's 9 punches. Caught Luo Shu's 9 punches at the 1st level of the 2nd. Duan Muxingling's eyes blinked slightly, as if he was thinking about something, and said, if he passes the first level of the fourth layer, he will definitely overshadow us and become the #1 person in the Martial City Academy. It is estimated that even the inner palace of the Martial City School Palace will be alarmed. Huang Yanchen said, what do you mean? Duan Jupiter smiled brightly and said, if he passes the third level of the third layer, we will stop him, and prevent him from entering the fourth layer. Huang Yanchen nodded and said, yes. Since those male students in the Western Academy all say that we are female devils, we should do what female devils should do, for example, suppressing newcomers. It's not suppression, we're saving him. If he behaves too rebelliously, it may not be a good thing for him. Duan Muxingling seemed to be trying to convince himself, and nodded slightly, muttering to himself, everything I do is for his good. However, the evil smile on her face betrayed her. Looking at her like that, she didn't look like a 13 or 14-year-old girl, but more like a little devil. The third level of the third layer is somewhat similar to the third level of the second layer, which is also a 1 square pool, and the same as a number of ripples. The difference is that this time 2 silver coins fell into the pool at the same time, creating 2 ripples. Be dual-minded, staring at 2 ripples at the same time. Moreover, if 2 silver coins fall into the water at the same time, the observation of the warrior will also form a great interference, which will undoubtedly increase the difficulty. In order to achieve dual-purpose use, one must cultivate one's spiritual power to the 20th order or above. If you want to count the number of ripples in 2 places, it is far from enough to just have 20-order spiritual power, at least 25th-order spiritual power is required to do it. You must know that except for those refiners, alchemists, and beast masters who specialize in cultivating spiritual power, other martial artists will not waste time on cultivating spiritual power at all. If you don't deliberately cultivate your spiritual power, the spiritual power of a heavenly extreme realm martial artist can only reach the strength of the 20th to 25th order. It is almost impossible for a young martial artist to pass this level. Of course, for Zhang Ruokan, his spiritual power has reached more than the 30th level, and this level is not difficult for him. When the water surface was completely calm, Zhang Ruokan picked up the inscription pen and wrote down the number of ripples he observed on the jade tablet, so he easily passed this level. This year's freshmen, the best people, have only passed the first level of the third layer. I have now passed the third level of the third layer, and I should be able to firmly become the first freshman this year. The fourth layer of the martial tower, it's better not to break in, it's not necessarily a good thing to behave too wickedly. Zhang Ruokan's heart thought so. He is not a person who likes to be in the limelight, and he will not reward him more if he breaks through the fourth layer of the martial tower. In that case, then accept it when you see it, and leave Wuda now. Zhang Ruokan was thinking like this in his heart, and 2 stunning beauties walked out of the metal gate and blocked his way. Zhang Ruokan, the 4th floor of the Wu Tower, you don't have to go. Huang Yanchen stood straight with his hands behind his back, his expression was very proud, gently raised his snow-white chin, and stared condescendingly at Zhang Ruokan below. She is almost about 1.75 meters tall, and standing on the top of the stairs, she looks even taller, with a slender waist, slender legs, and a figure that is perfect to the extreme. Zhang Ruokan stood below, looking at Huang Yanchen's beautiful face that had brought disaster to the country and the people, and said, since I have passed the third level of the third layer, why can't I go to the fourth layer? Originally, he didn't plan to go to the 4th floor of the Martial Tower, but being warned that he was not allowed to go to the 4th floor of the Martial Tower, which was another matter. What the hell are they going to do? Zhang Ruokan naturally knew the 2 beautiful sisters in front of him. They were both masters of the Zanbang, their cultivation was strong, and they were simply lawless in the Western Academy, and even those older students were very afraid of them. But, so what? Zhang Ruokan didn't eat their set. Anyway, this is Wuda, and he was not afraid that they would kill him. Huang Yanchen said solemnly, we are saving you, not harming you. If you perform well enough, you will naturally be able to obtain a large amount of cultivation resources and become an important cultivation object of the academy. But if you are too good, it will not be a good thing for you, but it will cause you to be killed. It seems to make some sense. Zhang Ruokan nodded, and said, however, I am not related to you. Is it too unreasonable for you to care about my safety like this? What exactly is your purpose? Let's get straight to the point. Walking out of the martial arts training ground, Zhang Ruokan came to the second level of the third floor of the martial tower. Among this year's young martial artists, it seems that no one has been able to break through the second level of the third layer. This level will definitely not be as easy as the second level of the second layer. Zhang Ruokan stared at the words on the wall, looking at the rules of this level. I see, it's that simple. Zhang Ruokan nodded and opened the door of the second level of the third floor of the Wu Tower. It is also a 30-meter long closed corridor, only 3 meters wide, and on the left and right sides of the corridor, there are 9 metal bronze figures. A total of 18 metal bronze figures. According to the introduction above the rules of the level, the body of each bronze figure weighs 1,000 caddies, all of which are refined by a refiner, with inscriptions engraved on the body, inlaid with spirit crystals, and the body is as hard as a true martial weapon. In the realm of refiners, they are called alchemists. The strength and speed of each refining warrior were comparable to a martial artist at the peak of the late stage of the Zanji realm. You must know that the body of the refining warrior is like copper and iron, with infinite strength and no flaws. Therefore, when it comes to a real battle, a refining warrior can compete with a martial artist of the Xuanji realm who is at a small pole. In other words, Zhang Ruokan is now facing 18 martial artists comparable to the small poles of the Xuanji realm, and moreover, he is still in such a narrow passage. It is almost impossible for a martial artist in the middle of the Xuanji realm to walk through this passage. Ziqian, Prince Huo Xing, and Yao Qingtong are all cultivators of the Xuanji realm small pole rank, so they must be facing 18 refining warriors who are comparable to the great pole rank of the Xuanji realm. No wonder they all lost. This level, great. Zhang Ruokan put away the flash soul sword, because the requirement of this level is that you can't use weapons. Let's fight. Zhang Ruokan rolled up his 2 sleeves, his eyes gradually became firm, and he took a step and stepped into the passage. The bodies of the 2 refining warriors standing at the front moved slightly, and 2 flames emerged from a pair of dark and deeply sunken eyes. Of metal crashing sounded, and the 2 refiner warriors. Wow! 2 refiner warriors shot at the same time. The refining warrior on the left swung his fist at Zhang Ruokan's face, and a fire light appeared above the fist, like a fist of flames, bursting out with terrifying power, turning into a wave of heat surging towards Zhang Ruokan. The refining warrior on the right stretched out a steel thigh, and with a cold and icy energy, it swept towards Zhang Ruokan's lower plate. They were incredibly fast, and they were in a confined space, and there was no way to dodge. Zhang Ruokan's body leaned back slightly, dodging the metal fist of the refiner warrior on the left. At the same time, he quickly struck out a palm and struck the chest of the refining warrior. Bang! Zhang Ruokan's palm power was so strong, he knocked that refining warrior upside down against the wall with one palm, and the entire wall shook slightly. However, that refining warrior did not suffer any damage, and immediately attacked Zhang Ruokan again. Immortal. Zhang Ruokan's speed was much faster than that of the refining warriors, and he had previously taken 3 steps in a row, dodging the serial attacks of the 2 refining warriors. However, an even greater crisis emerged. Because Zhang Ruokan took 3 steps forward, waking up the 2 refining warriors in front of him. The 2 refining warriors in front and the 2 refining warriors in the back surrounded Zhang Ruokan in the center and attacked Zhang Ruokan at the same time. Bang! Boom! Bang! 4 refining warriors, 8 metal arms, and 8 metal long legs, all greeted Zhang Ruokan. In all directions, there are palm shadows and foot shadows. The true qi in Zhang Ruokan's body was running rapidly, and his legs were moving rapidly, either sideways or sweeping. A pair of arms are constantly waving, either palming or blocking. Elephants gallop to the ground. Zhang Ruokan hit 4 palms in a row at an extremely fast speed. Boom! The 4 refining warriors were all knocked out by Zhang Ruokan, some hit the wall, and some fell to the ground, which was simply scattered. Zhang Ruokan continued to walk forward, and 2 more refining warriors attacked him at the same time, and the 4 refining warriors behind him also got up from the ground and chased after him again. No, I must fight quickly, and if I am surrounded by 18 refiner warriors, I will definitely be defeated. This thought quickly flashed through Zhang Ruokan's mind. Bang! Zhang Ruokan's legs squatted, his arms slashed out diagonally, and he threw the refiner warrior on the left backwards, smashing the 4 refiner warriors who caught up to the ground. Pick up the pace and rush forward. The dragon elephant returns to the field. The dragon is in the sky. Elephants gallop to the ground. Bang bang. Zhang Ruokan's speed was extremely fast, and he walked through the corridor with a sweeping momentum. As he walked through the corridor, all 18 refining warriors stood still. Zhang Ruokan looked at the bruises on his arms and sighed, after all, it's flesh and blood, and it's too much of a loss to fight these refining warriors. But I finally managed to break through. Zhang Ruokan continued to walk forward and entered the 3rd level of the 3rd layer. Open corner bracket exclamation mark. He actually passed the 2nd level of the 3rd layer unscathed, and with his ability, he might be able to break through the 3rd level of the 3rd layer. Duan Jupiter Ling squeezed a pair of snow-white jade hands tightly, staring at the aura mirror, very unhappy in his heart. You must know that when she first entered the Martial Tower, she did not pass the 2nd level of the 3rd layer. In the history of the Western Courtyard, there were only 3 freshmen who entered the Martial Pagoda for the first time, and those who were able to break through the 2nd level of the 3rd layer. Zhang Ruokan is the 4th. Duan Muxing Spirit said, Sister Chen, do you think he can break through the 3rd level of the 3rd layer? Huang Yanchen pondered for a moment and said, in the history of the West Courtyard, only 1 freshman has passed the 3rd of the 3rd layer Guan, that is the gatekeeper of the Wu Tower, Luo Shu. Since Zhang Ruokan can defeat Luo Shu in the same realm, he may be able to break through the 3rd level of the 3rd layer. Moreover, if he has passed the 3rd level of the 3rd layer, he does not need to break the 1st level of the 4th layer, because he has already passed the 1st level of the 4th layer when he is in the 1st level of the 2nd layer. The 1st level of the 4th layer is to catch Luo Shu's 9 punches. Caught Luo Shu's 9 punches at the 1st level of the 2nd. Duan Muxingling's eyes blinked slightly, as if he was thinking about something, and said, if he passes the 1st level of the 4th layer, he will definitely overshadow us and become the number 1 person in the Martial City Academy. It is estimated that even the inner palace of the Martial City School Palace will be alarmed. Huang Yanchen said, what do you mean? Duan Jupiter smiled brightly and said, if he passes the 3rd level of the 3rd layer, we will stop him and prevent him from entering the 4th layer. Huang Yanchen nodded and said, yes. Since those male students in the Western Academy all say that we are female devils, we should do what female devils should do, for example, suppressing newcomers. It's not suppression, we're saving him. If he behaves too rebelliously, it may not be a good thing for him. Duan Muxingling seemed to be trying to convince himself, and nodded slightly, muttering to himself, everything I do is for his good. However, the evil smile on her face betrayed her. Looking at her like that, she didn't look like a 13 or 14-year-old girl, but more like a little devil. The 3rd level of the 3rd layer is somewhat similar to the 3rd level of the 2nd layer, which is also a 1 zhang square pool, and the same as a number of ripples. The difference is that this time 2 silver coins fell into the pool at the same time, creating 2 ripples. Dual-minded, staring at 2 ripples at the same time, without. Moreover, if 2 silver coins fall into the water at the same time, the observation of the warrior will also form a great interference, which will undoubtedly increase the difficulty. In order to achieve dual-purpose use, one must cultivate one's spiritual power to the 20th order or above. If you want to count the number of ripples in 2 places, it is far from enough to just have 20-order spiritual power, at least 25th-order spiritual power is required to do it. You must know that except for those refiners, alchemists, and beast masters who specialize in cultivating spiritual power, other martial artists will not waste time on cultivating spiritual power at all. If you don't deliberately cultivate your spiritual power, the spiritual power of a heavenly extreme realm martial artist can only reach the strength of the 20th to 25th order. It is almost impossible for a young martial artist to pass this level. Of course, for Zhang Ruokan, his spiritual power has reached more than the 30th level, and this level is not difficult for him. When the water surface was completely calm, Zhang Ruokan picked up the inscription pen and wrote down the number of ripples he observed on the jade tablet, so he easily passed this level. This year's freshmen, the best people, have only passed the first level of the third layer. I have now passed the third level of the third layer, and I should be able to firmly become the first freshman this year. The fourth layer of the Marshall Tower, it's better not to break in, it's not necessarily a good thing to behave too wickedly. Zhang Ruokan's heart thought so. He is not a person who likes to be in the limelight, and he will not reward him more if he breaks through the fourth layer of the Marshall Tower. That case, then accept it when you see it, and leave Wuda now. Zhang Ruokan was thinking like this in his heart, and two stunning beauties walked out of the metal gate and blocked his way. Zhang Ruokan, the fourth floor of the Wu Tower, you don't have to go. Huang Yanchen stood straight with his hands behind his back, his expression was very proud, gently raised his snow-white chin, and stared condescendingly at Zhang Ruokan below. She is almost about 1.75 meters tall, and standing on the top of the stairs, she looks even taller, with a slender waist, slender legs, and a figure that is perfect to the extreme. Zhang Ruokan stood below, looking at Huang Yanchen's beautiful face that had brought disaster to the country and the people, and said, since I have passed the third level of the third layer, why can't I go to the fourth layer? Originally, he didn't plan to go to the fourth floor of the Marshall Tower, but being warned that he was not allowed to go to the fourth floor of the Marshall Tower, which was another matter. What the hell are they going to do? Zhang Ruokan naturally knew the two beautiful sisters in front of him. They were both masters of the Zanbang, their cultivation was strong, and they were simply lawless in the Western Academy, and even those older students were very afraid of them. But, so what? Zhang Ruokan didn't eat their set. Anyway, this is Wuda, and he was not afraid that they would kill him. Huang Yanchen said solemnly, we are saving you, not harming you. If you perform well enough, you will naturally be able to obtain a large amount of cultivation resources and become an important cultivation object of the academy. But if you are too good, it will not be a good thing for you, but it will cause you to be killed. It seems to make some sense. Zhang Ruokan nodded, and said, however, I am not related to you. Is it too unreasonable for you to care about my safety like this? What exactly is your purpose? Let's get straight to the point.